Lengthy queues at security, no seats free in departures, and a packed plane, no seat left unsold. Not anymore. How does air travel adapt to the age of COVID?
We just got off the plane, all the passengers were wearing masks and every middle seat was left empty. When we boarded and when we left, it was done really slowly, row by row. And back in Heathrow, it was half empty, no coffee, no breakfast, and seats closed off with markings and one-way systems just to try and keep people apart.
Belfast City Airport would usually handle 10,000 people a day at this time of year. It's currently serving a couple of hundred on one flight a day, kept running with government support.
I worked in this industry in the aftermath of the atrocity of 9/11. There was general consensus the industry would never recover, but through time it did. You know, SARS, volcanic ash, we've been through a number of economic downturns, nothing to this extent, but I suppose I'm an optimist by nature and people will feel comfortable travelling again.
The boss is starting to consider how Belfast will ramp back up.
So while we would like an instant recovery, it ain't going to happen. So when we start a route, it'll be 2 flights a day instead of 7 to a destination. So we would probably start over June, July, August to get back to most of our network, but maybe only a third of the throughput. So that's still plenty of capacity in the facility for social distancing.
The airport is expecting a tough time until next April, with even domestic tourist traffic slow to recover. And with the peak holiday season approaching, some in the sector are frustrated at the lack of clear guidance about flying in the future. The reality is that social distancing doesn't work on planes and won't work in airports as passenger numbers rise.
It's just not practicable. You know, most of the modelling suggests that if you did have to do that, you would really only be able to operate at about 25% capacity. And, you know, for a lot of airports, for a lot of airlines, that's simply not going to be commercially viable. So that's why it's so important for us to find alternative ways of achieving the same level of, you know, de-risking that environment.
Airlines' high costs means a plane must be on average 75% full to break even. Running below that, plus other extra costs, over time likely means one thing for eager holidaymakers: higher prices. Distancing rules that mean planes running 62% full could push up prices by an estimated 43 to 54% compared to 2019, depending on the region. We've already heard gloomy predictions from airlines and airports that it could take 2 or 3 years for the industry to recover to 2019 levels. But there is another outcome that the sector's contemplating. Newsnight's seen analysis from one industry group that talks about a new, lower demand for air travel, a new normal that could last long into the future.
There's so much structural change now going to happen with the industry. We see that the crisis has probably changed people's perceptions about travel, be that confidence, be it businesses going for online conferences, government attitudes being expressed when it comes to state aid about airlines' environmental credentials, and the airlines themselves, some of whom are going to fail. And I think in the years to come, we'll see that the industry has shrunk quite dramatically on where it is today.
EasyJet today announced 4,500 job losses. British Airways plans 12,000 job cuts. Norwegian Air, Air France KLM and Germany's Lufthansa are getting government bailouts. More are likely.
I have control. Have it.
Loganair has been flying key workers and the Royal Mail around the Highlands and Islands during lockdown, again with government support. But even a carrier focused on UK regional connectivity is changing course thanks to the quarantine rules starting on June 8th. Rules that many in the sector doubt will prove effective or enforceable.
We've pushed back the relaunch dates of our services to Denmark and to Norway on the basis of the quarantine rules. We're also going to be flying slightly less domestic services over the course of the coming weeks because demand for those will be down as well, with no international connecting flights to link to them. Each 3 weeks of quarantine taking place will have an exponential and negative effect on the airline industry's ability to recover. Of course, what nobody wants is to see a second wave of coronavirus, but it's not actually clear how quarantine is going to prevent that by stopping customers coming in from countries with a lower infection rate than our own into the UK.
The industry wants a long-term package of government support, as well as the information it needs to plan its future. Without it, airports, airlines and your holiday plans are left in a holding pattern.